Hello, friends. It is your friendly neighborhood acupuncturist extraordinaire, Dr. Barbie Wasson, with River Point Family Acupuncture, and this is River Point's podcast where we get to the point on all things acupuncture, health, and vitality in the River Valley. Today, we are starting something new, a series that I have been very excited to launch called Anatomy of Trust. This series comes from something I see in clinic almost every single day. People feel confused by their bodies. Sometimes symptoms show up: fatigue, pain, hormonal changes, anxiety, digestive problems, sleep disturbances, and many people feel like their bodies have suddenly turned against them. But here's the thing: most of us were never actually taught how the body works. We learn the names of organs in school: heart, liver, kidneys, brain. We labeled diagrams and memorized parts long enough to pass a test, but almost nobody ever explained how those organs function together. How the nervous system regulates stress, how digestion turns food into energy, how hormones communicate with each other, how sleep affects metabolism, how muscles influence blood sugar and bone density. We're told what to do for our health all the time: exercise more, sleep more, drink more water, eat more protein, and for goodness sake, manage your stress. But very rarely are we told why these things matter at a physiological level. And when advice has no explanation behind it, motivation tends to fade pretty quickly because we all need the why. It's just in our human nature. Let me give you an example. Most people know strength training builds muscle and makes you stronger, makes you look good. That sounds all fine and well, but when you understand what muscle actually does inside the body, it becomes a very different story. Muscle improves insulin sensitivity. It stores glycogen, which helps stabilize blood sugar. It raises resting metabolic rate. And when muscle pulls on bone during movement, it stimulates osteoblast activity, which improves bone density. That translates into independence as you age, with a lot less health concerns. Now, strength training is not just about toned arms and looking good. It's about metabolic resilience and long-term structural protection. Understanding changes behavior. When we do not understand how the body works, symptoms tend to feel random and quite unfair. Sometimes they feel like betrayal. Pain shows up, energy disappears, hormones get strange, and people begin to lose trust in their bodies. But physiology isn't random. The nervous system regulates stress responses and blood flow. Stress changes digestion. Digestion determines how well we absorb nutrients. Nutrients builds tissues. Tissues determine metabolic health. Circulation affects healing. Hormones respond to sleep, stress, and nutrition. And even our thoughts influence neural signaling and inflammation. Everything influences everything. Once you start seeing those connections, symptoms stop looking like chaos and they start looking like communication. One of my deepest missions in practice is helping people restore trust in their bodies. And trust does not return simply because someone says you're fine. Trust returns when you understand what is happening and why. When the mechanism becomes clear, fear decreases. Sorry, Olive's moving around. She's getting restless. When fear decreases, people regain a sense of agency over their health. That is exactly why we are starting this series at River Point. Anatomy of Trust will be a long-term exploration of how your body actually works. Each month, we will explore one system or one organ or one process, and we'll look at it from two perspectives. First, modern physiology and biochemistry, and second, the perspective of Chinese medicine, my favorite, which has been mapping relationships inside the body for thousands of years. We will ask very practical questions like, how does the nervous system regulate stress and sleep? How does digestion extract energy and support immunity? How does muscle influence metabolism and blood sugar? How does the cardiovascular training strengthen the heart and blood vessels? How do hormones communicate through feedback loops? How does fascia connect structure and movement throughout the body? And how do the organs described in Chinese medicine relate to measurable physiology that we understand today? Later in the series, we will go organ by organ. We will bridge modern physiology with the Chinese organ networks described by scholars like Giovanni Maciocia, Wang Juyi, Deborah Betts, Miriam Lee, and my personal favorite, Dan Keown. Dan's work is especially interesting because it shows how many of the acupuncture channel systems line up with real anatomical and fascial pathways in the body. Structure and function align more closely than people realize. This will not be a surface level series. We are not focusing on trends, and we're not focusing on quick fixes. We are focusing on mechanisms, adaptation, and regulation. Because when you understand how the body adapts to stress, fatigue stops looking like weakness and starts looking like useful information. When you understand blood sugar regulation, nutrition choices become easier. And when you understand how sleep affects hormones and brain chemistry, bedtime stops looking optional. The body is not disorganized. It is structured, it responds to input, it adapts to demand. It follows patterns. And when those patterns get disrupted, symptoms appear. It's just that simple. When communication improves, resilience returns. This series is the beginning of that conversation. Next week, we are going to start right at the top of the hierarchy with the nervous system. If you have ever felt wired but exhausted, struggled with sleep, experienced stress-related digestive changes, or notice how your mood affects your body, you have already felt the nervous system at work. Over time, this series will build layer by layer of physiological literacy. My hope is it changes the way you see your body. My hope is that it strengthens your commitment to your own health. But most of all, my hope is that it restores trust and a sense of awe for the incredible system you are living in every day. If you are curious about how acupuncture might support your health journey, you can visit us at Riverpoint Family Acupuncture here in the River Valley. Thank you for listening to Riverpoint's podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who might need a little more trust in their body too. And make sure to tune in next week as we begin to explore the wonders of the nervous system. With wishes of wellness and a great journey into what makes your own body go, this is Dr. Barbie Wasson, Professor of Body Literacy and Physiological Curiosity.